Hello there everyone, it's Nina Marie Trapani for Simon Says Stamp, and I'm excited to be bringing you today's video because we are revealing our Paper Artsy STAMPtember collaboration set. This one is called Believe, and it's a beauty. It features some really darling and classic Paper Artsy images. You've got a large tree with some holiday text in the background, some fun and pieces that you can use to add some distressing and fun patterns to your projects. You've got a present, a star, a little border, a corner sentiment, and also some tags. As with any of our Simon Says Stamp STAMPtember collaboration sets, this is only available over at simonsaystamp.com, and it's only available while supplies last. So if you'd like to get it, you're going to want to grab it while you can. I want to show you the stamp set up close because what's really nice about this set is that it's a cling mounted stamp set. So all of these are red rubber clings and they feature so much detail. It's one of the fabulous things about rubber stamps is that they capture all of that detail. They sit on this backer card here with the tacky surface on the back side, so you can easily put them onto a clear block or into your stamping tool. I'm going to be using a Misty today, and I'm going to start first by stamping my large tree image in the center of my 4x6 card panel. I'm making a 5x7 card today, and yes, this image is bigger than the 4x6 card panel that I'm using, but I'm going to center it in the middle of my card, and then just make sure that the top and two sides have the same amount of space around the image, so it fits nicely and evenly in the card panel. I prepped the surface of my white cardstock with some powder tool prior to stamping with embossing ink. I'm going to emboss this with gold embossing powder, and I really like gold for the holidays. It gives a really nice warm and elegant feel to the project. I did make sure to press this down really well as I was stamping, and I'm going to check to make sure, tip it in the light to make sure I got all of the stamping done cleanly, and if I needed to, I could always go back over with my stamping tool again to stamp that image one more time if I accidentally missed something. With my gold embossing powder, I'm going to sprinkle that over top and tap off any excess. Then I'll work on heat embossing. Now with an image this large and on this large of a piece of paper, I'm going to make sure to rotate back and forth with the heat. So I'm going to heat a little bit on the front of the panel, and then I'll flip over to the back. What this is doing is it's helping me keep my paper from warping as much. If you add the heat to both sides, it makes the memory of the paper go back to the opposite of what it's trying to warp to. So that helps keep the paper as flat as possible. And check out all the detail in this image. I just love the text behind the tree. I think it's really fun. Now no, I'm not repeating the project here. This is actually another round of stamping. I'm stamping onto masking paper now with that same tree image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the masks to mask off the tree parts, and so that way I can ink blend the background and not get any of that ink on the tree, which will allow me to then color that separately. I love the text so much, and I thought it would be beautiful to have a nice color behind the tree. So using Gina Masking Magic paper, that's going to allow me to fussy cut all of the tree elements out as well as the star so that I can place them over top of my embossed image and only get the ink blending on the background. So I'm using Simon Says Stamp Fine Detail Scissors to cut all of these masks out. It's a little tedious, but trust me, it is so worth it, and I just adore the fact that when you peel off the masks, you get that amazing magical reveal. So I'm placing all of my masks onto the corresponding sections of the tree. So all we did was cut out the tree branches and then the star. Didn't worry about the trunk because the whole thing is embossed with gold, so it's going to resist any of that ink. Now I do want to make sure I don't get any ink around the outside edges of this little panel. So I'm going to mask off with some masking tape here. This is very, very low tack tape from Simon Says Stamp, but any tape will work. I'm just putting that tape around the border of this little frame that surrounds the tree. This way it keeps the rest of my card nice, bright and white, but it's going to allow me to keep all of the ink inside of that panel. And I'm making sure to put extra tape around the edges so I don't accidentally get any ink anywhere on my white card panel. So for the ink blending, I'm using Seafoam and Zest from our Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturating Collection. The Zest is to go over top of the star area. I want to have a glow around the star, so that's going to give me that really nice effect. Then the blue color is going to go on the panel. So this is going to go all the way around the edges of this little gold frame. And I'm making sure to leave the center of that panel a little bit lighter, almost basically white, so that it gives a little bit more of a glow behind the tree. Once I'm done ink blending, then we can remove the masks, and this is always the fun part. So start peeling all of these off very carefully. and we get that beautiful clean blending around the frame. Now before I remove the masks for the tree and the star, I did go back over the star with a little bit of yellow ink because the star actually extends past the frame. So I want the glow to also do the same thing. Now we can remove the masks for the star and the tree. And this is just so satisfying. I am always so thrilled with how masking turns out. I should do it more often, but I thought this would be a perfect project to do it. So breaking out that masking paper, that allowed me to get this really cool effect, and now I can just color in the tree. The tree I colored with Copic markers. You don't have to use Copics, you can use colored pencils or watercolors, whatever you want to use. And because I'm using Copic markers over an embossed image, I'm just making sure not to color over the embossing lines themselves. And I never have any issues with my markers getting damaged because, again, I'm not going over top of the actual embossing. But if you're worried about that, just use a different coloring medium. So I repeated the process of coloring the tree branches with the same greens that I just showed you. And then for the star, I just brought in 2 yellows and added a little bit of shading over there too. Very simple coloring on the tree. I did not do anything too fancy. But this colors in our entire image for the most part. The only other thing I did do was add a little bit of red to the inner parts of the frame that doesn't have any gold embossing covering it solid. So that way it just adds a little touch of bright red, adds to the Christmas feel. Now there are some great images in this stamp set that you can use as accents around your tree. So I'm going to use this little trio of little starbursts, and I'm going to stamp them in 3 sections around the tree. And for the second stamping, I did accidentally not stamp it fully, and at first I was kind of like, oh man, but that's okay. I'm actually going to cover most of that with my sentiments, and I'm also going to add some splattering. So really it adds to the distressed feel of this, and it adds to the whimsical touch. So in the end, I'm actually really happy with how that turned out. But if you were worried about not stamping fully, you could have used a misting tool or stamping tool instead of a clear block. I'm going to put a little bit of gold paper behind my panel. This is our Simon Says Stamp matte gold cardstock. And I'm just going to trim that really close to the edges of the panel so that way I get this really nice thin frame. For a sentiment, I'm going to use that corner greeting that comes in the stamp set, but I'm actually going to cut it because I want to actually put these as staggered greetings. What's really nice about cutting your stamps is you can always put it back to the way it was originally intended. So I just put a clean cut right down the center of that corner, and I'm going to have these 2 sentiments staggered on either side of the panel. For the sentiments, I'm stamping onto some dark chocolate cardstock from our Simon Says Stamp collection, and I'm using, again, the same embossing ink that I used earlier. I'm going to also emboss these in gold. If I emboss them in gold, that's going to help tie everything together really nicely, so I thought that would be a good fit for this project. Once I finished embossing the sentiments, then I just used my paper trimmer and just cut them down into simple little strips. I am going to pop them up onto my card. I'm using our Simon Says Stamp black foam squares for this because they're darker, so you won't actually see the tape around the sides of the sentiment, which is a really nice feature. It hides the adhesive really well, and it gives the sentiments a very clean look. So these are staggered on either side of the tree. And then for my card base, I'm going to cover it with some pattern paper. This is just a black plaid that I had in my stash. Any sort of black plaid would look really good with this. I know Tim Holtz's newest collection from Ideology features some fun plaid papers. That might be a good fit for this. This was just one that I had randomly sitting in my paper bin. But to glue it onto my 5x7 card, I am using some craft glue stick from Simon Says Stamp. I love glue sticks for pattern paper because it gives me a little bit of extra time to wiggle the paper and get the perfect placement for it. So if I have any issues with it not being lined up perfectly, I can kind of shimmy it back into place. Okay, so to pop up my card panel onto my card base, I'm using foam tape, and this is Simon Says Stamp foam tape. Centered that up into the center of my card. It's got that really nice border from the plaid. And now it's time to embellish. So I'm bringing in some glossy accents, and I'm covering the star with the glossy accents. I'm not going to add any glitter to it. I just want the shine on the star. It's going to give it a little bit more dimension too. I'll turn this in the light so you can see that. And then I'm also going to use the glossy accents on the tips of the tree branches. And this is so that way I can sprinkle a little bit of glitter on these. I'm going to use the Distress Clear Rock Candy glitter. And that's because I want to add just a very soft touch of sparkle. This is not going to be super crazy in your face because we're also going to add some embellishments to the tree to be ornaments. So I didn't want this to be too heavy and too loud. So that soft glitter looks really pretty along the tips of the trees. Almost kind of looks like the tree's a little icy. And then with 3 of our Simon Says Stamp Pawsitively, Dazzling and Gems in Cherry, Lucky, and Surf, I put those all around the tree to be ornaments. I just love the dazzling gems because they catch the light so beautifully. There's a lot of extra facets in them, so that really catches the light and adds to the charm of the tree. This tree kind of reminds me of like a cross between a Charlie Brown Christmas tree and a Grinch Christmas tree. It's playful, it's fun, I love the little branches on it. So this is such a charming set, and it worked so well to make this adorable Christmas card. I hope you were inspired by this project. The masking was just magical. How it allowed us to create that soft blended background with the beautiful glow on the star, and then we were able to color in the branches and the star with our markers or whatever medium you prefer. The result is just charming, and I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Don't forget that this is a STAMPtember collaboration exclusive. This is the Believe set from Paper Artsy, and it's only available at Simon Says Stamp while supplies last. The links to it are down in the video description as well as on the blog, so be sure to check all that out. And I can't wait to come back and share more with you all from STAMPtember inspiration. So stay tuned, and I will be seeing you again very soon.